Namaste. Good morning. Today I want to talk about something. We're going to call it "Who's awake?" And it's not a question. Who's awake? And I have to tell you, with all sincerity, the immediate answer that comes to mind is, who cares? You know, it reminds me, I had something that I wanted to complete. I remember in 1973, I wanted to run a marathon, and I'm not the marathon type, okay? I'm the Endodorf, the bigger-bodied kind of, not fat, but and certainly not a real thin runner. But I set this objective for myself. I wanted to complete a marathon. And I took it so far as that weekly, for a year, I went to a meeting of like-minded people who prepared, and I prepared throughout a year with guides. I really prepared, and my goal was always to complete the marathon. Time was not important, and that's how I feel about awakening. It's kind of like a marathon. We're all gonna finish. We're all not. It's not finished. We're all gonna get. We're all gonna complete this objective. When? Who cares? How? Who cares? And I'm not being cavalier here, but who's awake? Don't know, don't care. It's not very important, because first of all, it's such an ordinary thing. It's like, who woke up this morning? Well, some of us didn't, because we're never to wake again in this body. But it's just as mundane. In almost every respect to me, it's just so ordinary. It's an ordinary condition of man to reunite with the whole, to awaken from the dream. It's our manifest destiny. It's our inherent right. So who cares? And I want to digress here a little bit. I want to talk about Quora. It's an online forum that I found myself still attracted to. Less and less, I have to admit. But, there's some good thinkers and some good ideas. And I remember, I'll tell two incidences that kind of earmarked the end of my spending time on this format, on Quorum. Quorum. And one was somebody who wrote something about that was totally in sync with what I'd experienced, is that my 33 years of Zen training, I was never able to silence the mind. I'm not going to say it can't be done. I'd be guilty of the same things that I want to share with two people in particular. So, really nice. Really in sync that, why would you want to eliminate one of the few tools? Thinking is one of our tools. And it's jhana yoga, the path of knowledge. Knowledge to wisdom. Information, knowledge to wisdom. Gleaming, sorting, collecting, storing, access. It's one of the 4 yogas. This is the hardest, but I don't know. It's, you have a propensity, and it had afterwards I learned that Advaita Vedanta warned me, and they mostly practiced jhana yoga, although some lean more towards the bhakti, the joy and the celebration, and the mantras, and the chanting and the singing and all of that. But to cultivate, one of the things they say is you better work on your heart chakra. Don't forget your heart chakra, compassion. So I'm wearing green, and I wear green a lot. I picked green as kind of my sage green is the color I picked of my group should it ever come to fruition. Sage green. Love the color, green-gray. I like the fact that it includes gray, because the world is not black and white. It's more likely to be gray. So the idea that green, I don't know how close this is, but I think it's pretty close. It's a wide range. Sage green has a wide range from lighter to darker. But anyway, I digress because so I acknowledge this person. I don't comment. I made a mistake. I think it's a mistake because the consequences of an action is a good way. It's the only way we have to gauge whether it was a well thought out idea. And in this case, I just praised him and I said, I'd like to start some correspondence with you because you're like-minded soul, because I'm always looking, sometimes I'm kind of aware that I'm on my own trip, and I'm okay with it. But it would be nice to correspond to somebody. And I liked what he said. Well, then he answered back with just that Zen koan, Zen parable. Before enlightenment, chopped wood carry water. After enlightenment, chopped wood carry water. So I just added, I said, yes, I agree. But I'd like to say that before enlightenment, chop water, chop wood carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood carry water consciously. Because my experience was that all action should be conscious. You should be aware. So it's not simply doing the same thing. It's doing the same thing, but with mindfulness, but with attention, but with focus, but with being in the moment. All these things. So he wrote me back something, to kind of, it became like a, both incidences became like kind of a pissing contest, Sorry for the language, but that's just what it felt like. It felt unsettling because he sent me some comment by a Chan Buddhist, and I'm not sure which one, but I'm pretty familiar. I spent 6 years with Chan and Bodhidharma, Dhammo for us in Taiwan, for Chinese speakers. The first patriarch is one of my spirit guides. So I think I have a little bit of experience from what I speak. And Hui Ning is the sixth and last patriarch, and I love him, and he was illiterate, and just Platform Sutra was among his accomplishments, but just wonderful, beautiful man that really resonated with me. So I can't say that I'm without experience. And so here this guy, I don't know when, he's trying to one-up me or something. I don't know. I just felt like it's a pissing contest. He's going to be better than me. Somehow that was important to him. So he quoted from some Chan master. And I just let it go. So there's no point. It's certainly not someone I want to correspond with. And then the second one was somebody that came out with such a harsh, judgmental. He was a Paramahamsa Yogananda who I followed my whole life. And I don't claim to be an expert, because I went through many, many Hinduism and then Paramahamsa Yogananda, and that kind of went hand in hand for 15, 20 years. And then Tibetan Buddhism kind of took me to Rinzai Zen, but I always kept Tibetan Buddhism because I on the back burner. But Rinzai Zen, which I practiced diligently for 33 years until I gave up. And it was only through gave up. And I gave up silencing the mind in the hopes of that silencing the mind was the clue to clarity. And I discovered in the process two important things that we're sharing again. Number one, what I meant as clarity was not vision or sight, was clarity of purpose, which I'd always had. And this was the benefit until I surrendered and gave up and said, well, so much for this rigorous, because it was really counter to what this so straight, and I'm like the Dalai Lama, we're sacks of potatoes, my posture is poor. And I didn't really think it's so important, but I really struggled. And from there, it was Chan, and I met my only teacher that I had in the flesh, even though I considered Paramahamsa a teacher. And to go back to Paramahamsa, I want to put things in context to this expert, this guy that ridicules. There's no one encore is 1 million miles away, is even 1 million miles close to enlightenment, because my master, Paramahamsa Yogananda, said this, blah, 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 blah. And two things were immediately apparent. Paramahamsa Yogananda, number one, they claim he was the first yogi to come to America. Well, that's not Vivekananda. Came into 1894, and he left something. He started on Manhattan Island. He started a Vedanta Center. So his presence was there before the turn of the century, many years before Paramahamsa moved to the U.S. Okay, and now you have to understand about Paramahamsa. He couched everything in Christianity. Okay, because he wanted to not alienate people, and at that time, man walking around with an orange robe and just long hair, and just, it was kind of a strange sight. So he sought for common ground. Good to him, because Christ was a Buddha too. And Buddha was a Christ. It works both ways. But I know that he purposefully. So the guy, I made a comment and said, how can you be so judgmental? Who appointed you judge and jury? Because it was so certain. And I learned through my own experiences that only fools are certain. Keep an open mind. Because certainty breeds belief, and belief is to be discarded. Belief is a tool of the ego, a stalling tool. It'll set you back. Any belief system has to be discarded after a rigorous examination, to be fair. Anyway, so I responded. I said, my experience with Yogananda was never that he would write words like you wrote, like so judgmental, that my way or the highway kind of a thing. And unbeknownst to him, and what I didn't mention, is that I've been in Malibu Heights, I've been to his ashram, his meditation gardens. I've walked on the same path that he's walked in. He had a special little, he called it a temple meditation hall, and I've sat on the benches where Paramahamsa Yogananda meditated. So I have an affinity. And the guy wrote back to me and says, well, you're obviously a pretender. You know nothing about, and I dare you to contradict one word that I said by quoting my teacher. So, you can imagine how that sat with, it didn't even faze me, actually. I didn't respond, but this is the beginning of the end for me. So that made me come to today's question. Who's awake? Who knows? Who cares? It's not important. It'll happen sooner or later. All things come to those who wait. Yeah, so be patient. Don't be quick to judge. And now I have more time to do something else than the time I spent on Quora. But it was a good, I did find some things, but I think the bad outweighed the good for me. And that there's better ways, got a lot of ways to spend my time. So with that in mind, if anybody asks you who's awake, I think the best answer is, who cares? Is Osho awake? Who cares? Is Eckhart Tolle awake? Who cares? Is Sadyashanti, Sadhguru awake? Who cares? Now Adyashanti told me he was awake. So told me, I heard him say that. So I have much more. So there's somebody that I believe. Okay. So believe what you want, but toss the beliefs. Someone that it resonates. I love his words, and his hard work kind of demonstrates his sincerity. Thank you, and peace be on all of us.